Hey guys, Ark here, bringing to you another Learning Night Elf episode. I was hoping to get this episode out, yesterday evening, but it was a long day yesterday, and so I wanted to start my day, just working on it this morning. So it is Wednesday morning. It's about 6 a.m. So let's go ahead and get started. And of course, I'll do the classic lower the sound. So just to explain, whoops, wrong spot. What I wanted to do in this episode is, and also the continued episodes for the next few, is just kind of showing build orders and stuff all the way through, things that you can practice in single player just to make sure that you perfect it. And then we'll kind of try and jump into more specific scenarios like we did in the the second chapter. So this is going to be an opening versus orc. This is a very common opening versus orc where you go Keeper of the Grove into Fast Hunter's Hall to go one archer into hunts. This is probably one of the most standard openings you can play as Keeper. And so if you're ever watching, like professional games or something, it's very common to see this opening. One big thing about this is that you can be very susceptible to early game harassment if you are not building your buildings on time. Now, I say this a lot, and some of you that watch might get tired of me saying this, but if you can't do your build order right, there's going to be a lot of things that can beat you, and there's also going to be a lot of things that you can't beat. So definitely practice getting this down because this is a little bit more involved than some of the other build orders. So to start off with, just pay attention to what I'm doing here. I'm only going one moon well, so even though I have the lumber for it, I'm not going to be building another one. I'm going to go straight into a hunter's hall and then a moon well right after that. And then also do your AOW creeping while scouting with the first wisp after the altar. Whoops. So there are a couple things to know. So a big thing with playing this style is what do you scout? And so I'm actually going to pause the game right there. So I know it's going to be hard for you to pay attention to it, but if you're trying to do the build alongside me, but there is just go ahead and skip past this part. Depending on what you scout, that's going to tell you a lot of information. So if you scout that your opponent is doing an opening that can lead into a harassment, then you just have to be aware of that. In most cases, because of your build being on time, you don't really have to worry about your Moonwell being canceled. But if you were late with anything, then that's obviously going to be a concern for you. So the big tells are going to be his shop timing. So if he has a super fast shop, to the point where it's going to be done when his hero comes out, that likely means he's going to buy items and then run over to you. The other common indicator is if he has no shop. If he has no shop, that's an indication that he's not going to be creeping because he doesn't have a way to heal after creeping. So those are the two scenarios you kind of want to look out for, and those kind of trigger you to say, hey, he's probably going to run over to my base right away. Alternatively, what you might see is him creeping. And so this scout wisp that I have up on the map, the purpose of the scout wisp is really just to see his early game movement because he can always surprise you as well. But you want to place it in a position where you will see his route while also being able to get it to move into a safe spot on the map. So on this spawn right here, there's a safe spot right here that I can move it to, but also just moving it in the direction away from the movements he wants to do would probably trigger a good player to not chase after the wisp. But the easiest spot would be right up here in the top part of the map. I'll show it in a second. So look out for those signs. If it looks like he's going to harass you and your build is late, well, you just kind of have to cross your fingers that he's not on time, because if he is, then there's not really a whole lot you can do, and you just have to go into like a salvage mode where you just try to desperately stay alive until you can get a Moonwell up. So let's go ahead and jump back into the game, and I'm creeping here. I'm going to kill the Null Warden first on this map, so I'm going to put my Wisp probably around here, and there's the last kill. I can summon my Treants and swap over to this. So I have my 145 lumber, so that's the sign that, hey, I can go ahead and build. And I'm going to actually just send this guy back and use it as part of my block. And shop trick. Okay. So at this point in the game, I'm assuming that he's going to creep first because most of the time you creep first on this map. And let's move this whiffs. Here's this spot I was talking about, this tree right here. So typically you are either going to go 2 moonwells into a tech or 3 moonwells just to stay tier 1 for a little bit longer. You kind of want to a big goal using this strategy is how do you get the expo up. And so there's a couple things that you can do. The easiest that I'm finding right now is T1 expo. So you just stay you stay tier 1 for a little bit longer and try to react to what he's doing. If the hero, the Blade Master, chases after your hero, then you just go ahead and build an expo. And by the time he stops chasing you, the expo is going to be most likely have too much HP for him to actually be able to cancel it. Another thing you can do if you're finding you're really struggling is, and you notice I'm not teching right now, that's because the purpose of this build is I'm doing a T1 expo build. Another thing that you can do is if you're really struggling to get time that he isn't going to be canceling your expo, you can just go ahead and buy dust once you get level 2 and just creep your gold mine. So just watch what I'm doing here. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and start creeping, and I'm just going to expand. And I have dust, so he's not going to really be able to stop my expo or stop the creeping. So I'll just dust here, and then if he was nearby, I would have just entangled. And there we go. So this is basically a guaranteed expo now, and I'm just going to go ahead and keep creeping this, and I'm actually going to go get mana as well so I can defend my expo. And then I just tech right after that. Get Ultra Vision, and now finish this expo, and it's going to be a super safe expo, and it's also very fast. And then when you can too, you want to get +1 upgrade. So I'm kind of going over a lot of different things and just walking through, the build. In this matchup, it's very fluid depending on what you scout, so it is kind of difficult to just kind of open in this way. But I'd say at kind of a lower level, what I just did here is probably going to be safe against most things that your opponent's going to do, just because they're going to be slower at what they're doing. And so the big takeaways here are kind of, what do you scout? Does it look like he's going to be harassing you at the start? If it does and your build is late, well, you just need to practice your build. There's nothing that I'm going to be able to tell you that's going to save you in those situations. It's really just the impact of not having a solid build timings. The next stage of it is, when do you expo? And really your number one goal needs to be to expo. And so at that point, it's just the scenario of how do you secure time to expo, and that's time that your opponent isn't harassing you, and that's using Dust of Appearance and just expoing right at the gold mine, or that's going to be using some other tools like him chasing after your hero. That's going to be a point where you're going to be able to expo. If you didn't go for the T1 expo, you can just proxy it, but you need to do something to secure space to proxy it. So long story short, I'm going to start making the transition into archers. I'll start it now, actually. You don't have to do it this soon. You can continue building hunts, but you're a little bit susceptible to kind of the normal play styles right now, where they go ahead and get a wyvern, and it makes it just a little bit more challenging from my perspective. So I like to switch over once I have somewhere between 4 to 6 hunts, and that's usually a point where you're going to be able to defend pretty much anything. And the other really important thing is, oops, let me switch this over. Okay. The other really important thing is going to be, here, let's move some of these guys over, is going to be really just your upgrade timings. So I like to go for a super fast +2. That seems to be pretty common. But if you go 1-1 into +2, that's okay too. But this, I like to just rush +2 as soon as I can. Nature's Blessing isn't really a priority, but it is good. So, you know, once you have the resources to do it, you can certainly get it. And I certainly have the resources now. And I'm going to go ahead and get another Moonwell because I'm a little bit behind. And at this point, you know, I have a pretty solid army. If he crept well, he would be level 3 himself. And of course, obviously, your opponent is going to be doing more pressure to you than what this computer did. But all that stuff doesn't really matter because in the early game, the Keeper of the Grove really dictates the game. So if there's a situation where, let's say you couldn't get your Expo up, that's usually an indication that you missed a timing that you could have been abusing. And that timing, by that I mean, is that you missed a point where you could have placed your Expo and you didn't, or you couldn't. You placed the Expo, but it wasn't safe. So when you're watching your own games or thinking about like what did I do wrong here, and if you aren't able to secure your Expo, or you're losing to harass, I would really consider your build because that's ultimately what's preventing you from doing that. There's nothing that your opponent can do to really stop this. And that's not just like a skill level thing. That's just, even at my level, there's nothing that my opponent can do to really prevent me from getting my Expo up. It's just a matter of whether they can outplay me while I have the Expo up. So with that said, I'm going to call it quits on this video. I'm basically just continuing production and just denying his Expo as much as I can. And that's pretty much all you have to do with this strategy. So we're going to call it quits here, and thanks guys for tuning in. Take care.